I'm just going to use one. All right. We are going to begin with Minha. Ali, you want to lead?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. On page 214, and if you're in the full volume Seam Shalom, it's on page 558.
Do we need a delete?
If you would like one, I do not.
It's not essential.
It does not. It's just to show us that you're the leader, but I think we know.
What?
You're okay. He's sitting there, but you can sit there well.
We're good. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Dihalucha Selah Hashem Shadonai Elav Tila LeDavid. Tiladna yada bepi, vivarecha basashem kochalel ampa'ed, vanatna ech yam, et aviad olam, hallelujah, uvaletzion goev. ואתה קדוש יושבתי לו ישראל, וכרזל זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות מלך על הארץ כבודו. ותישאני רוח ושמע אחרי קורש גדול, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Titen Emel Yaakov chesed l'Avraham asher nishbat al avotenu miyimei kedem. ויבטחו בך ידי שמך, כי לא עזבת ראשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד דבר קירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון, ובחייך בישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב, אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתמר ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קדושה בריחו. לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבתה ונחמתה, דרון בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. ואני תפילתי לך אדוני את רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת אישך. ויהי בנצור אהרון, ויאמר משה, קום אדוני ויפוצו אויביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו, ישראל בקדושתו.
ונעשה לכל ראש, רממו אדוני אלוהינו v'ishtachavu l'adam roglav kadoshu. Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. This way. As if I'm reading here. You may be seated. We're going to be reading from Parshat Bechukotai. So some years Behar and Bechukotai are together. This year they are split. Does anybody know the reason for that? Why sometimes we have Parshiot put together and sometimes not?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
Because sometimes you have more portions spent if you're in a leap year or not. Because 7 times every 19 years you have to add the month of Adar a second time to make sure that Passover won't happen in December as happens with Ramadan.
Great. So that is one reason, and the other reason is also that we are on a different. We end up on a different calendrical system than Israel because not all of our holidays are the same amount of time as Israel. Specifically, where this ends up kind of getting messed up is Passover. So if you look at Israel's calendar, they're actually a parsha ahead of us. Right, great. So they're a parsha ahead of us right now. So at times we end up having to push 2 parshiot together so that we can match up. And this year they're split so that we can stay kind of in line, or not too far off at least, even if we're not on the same parsha. Come on down. That was just my little intro. You could be just Gavai Shani if you'd like. Would anybody like the first aliyah? Do you want the first aliyah? Have a whole family affair up here? Joey, why don't you stand on that side? Thank you. So on page 747 in the Eitz Chaim Chumash, and if you're just at home following along, it's Leviticus 26, verse 3. Baruch Adonai Yambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mipohamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai Hashem HaTorah.
Amen. Im pechukotai telechu v'et mitzvotai tishmeru v'asitem otam v'natati gishmechem beitam v'natna ha'aretz yavula v'etz hasadeh iten pireho v'hasik pirio v'hasik lachem taish et vasir uvatzir yasig et zara v'achaltem lachmechem lasova v'shavtem levateach be'artzechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tzofenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Mark, do you want the second aliyah? Ya'amod Moshe Aaron Ben Dover Rezel Aliyah Sheni.
Page 748, verse 6, very top.
Baruch Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'natati shalom va'aretz v'shchavtem bein machrit v'hishbati chaya ra'a min ha'aretz v'charev v'cher v'lo tavor v'artzechem urdaftem et oivechem v'naflu lifnechem lecharev v'radfu mikem chamesha mea umea mikem raveva yirdofu v'naflu oivechem לפניכם לחרב, ופניתי עליכם, והפריתי אתכם, והרביתי אתכם, והקימותי את בריאתי איתכם.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Minha bat Ariella, Anna vet Shmuel Nachum. Thank you. Balayash Lishi.
Page 748, verse 10.
We should have like half Shabbat up here at least. There you go.
Here you go.
ברכו את אדוני מבורך. ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. ואכלתם ישן, נושן, וישן, מפני חדש תוציאו, ונתתי משכני בתוככם, ולא תיגל נפשי אתכם, והתהלכתי בתוככם, והייתי לכם לאלוהים, ואתם תהיו לי לעם. אני אדוני אליכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם עבדים, ואשבור מוטות כולכם, ואלח אתכם קומיות.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Ya'amot hamagbiya. AJ, you want to wrap? Ta'amot hagolelet. Please rise for the lifting and wrapping of the sacred Torah. AJ, will you bring a chair? We don't. Okay, great. מחזיקים בה תומכי המאושר, עץ חיים היא מחזיקים בה ותומכי המאושר, דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום, דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו השם, השם מלך ונשובה חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם. Thank you. So we have a few yard sites today, which we will commemorate with El Males. I know of two. Are there any others? Okay. You can. Okay. Whoever would like to go first, I'll just ask you to come up here. You can hold the Torah if you would like, and then ask if you would like to share a few words. Your mom, correct? Okay. El male rachamim shochin במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר כי המזהירים לנשמת Sarah Branabat. Avraham, שלחה לעולמה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום המשכבה, ונאמר אמן. Want to share a word or two, Father?
Just quickly, because I know there are others that want to get there. My mom was just such a positive person, always positive to the end. She didn't have such great luck with health, but she still remained hopeful and was appreciative and grateful for every moment that she had with me, with my kids, and her family.
May her memory forever be a blessing, and thank you for reading Torah in her memory and honor today. אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר כי המזהירים, לנשמת עליזה, שהלכה לעולמה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום המשכבה, ונאמר אמן. Want to share anything? Sure.
Well, Eli and Leslie invited me here tonight. We're community members also. My mom passed around the same time as Eli, and Eli's mother, and it just reminds me about the importance of community. And it was nice to have community during that time. And my mom, very similar to Eli, is just very just took everything in stride. At the end, had a lot of issues with health, but kept pushing through. And I think at the end, she lived a long life and a full life and was full of love and gave a lot of people comfort in her life, took care of a lot of people, including my family and her family. So thank you for...
Yehi zichra baruch. May her memory forever be a blessing, and may continue to find her memory in the community. Mark. Also your mom? אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר כי המזהירים, לנשמת
רזל בת אהרון עובדיה.
רזל בת אהרון עובדיה, שלחה לעולמה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום המשכבה, ונאמר אמן.
Well, this is 21 years since my mother passed away. It's hard to believe it's that long. Just a very decent, good, kind, compassionate person, dedicated to family, and remains a guide for us, for me and my sister, and other people in my family.
We'll continue now with the Torah Service on page 220. It's backwards, just so you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
There you go. Oh, it's 221. 221, sorry.
Hallelujah et Shem Adonai, ki nizkar shemo levado.
הארץ והשמיים וירם קרן להמה, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל קרובו, הללויה, לדוד מזמור.
Tushar Meshechem, Yisubit Hayolam, Yavo Melech HaKavod, Visa Melech HaKavod, Anatrad Melech HaKavod, Selah, Uvnu Hoyom Yilagachto Natati Lachem, Datil Tazohu, Eitzchem Yimakasim Ba, Betam Chechem Erushai, Dvahecha Dvachenam, Velchonadi Vatea Shalom, Hashivenu Emelech Ben Ashuva, Hadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
We'll do Chatzi Kaddish on the bottom of page 222, and then go straight into the whispered Amidah on page 223.
Yikada v'yikada shemei v'abba v'amadi v'akirutei v'amlich v'achutei hayechonu v'yomeichonu v'chayedecho be'Yisrael v'agala v'zman kaviv imhu amen yesh me'rabba mevarach ve'olam me'almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbarach v'yitma v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitala shmeid kudesha brichu Le'elam go bechata v'shivata tishbata v'nechamata daman be'alma v'imru amen.
If you've not yet finished your Amidah, please continue at your own pace. Alan will begin the repetition for us on page 223, and then we'll join together for the Kedusha on page 225.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu le'avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah Eloyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'konei HaKol V'zoher Chasdei Avod U'mevii Goel Livnei V'nehem L'man Shmo Be'ava Melech Ozer V'ked Moshiach Magen Baruch atah Adonai מגן אברהם פוקד צרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מלחמת עבר ולהושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיים מתים ברחמים רבים. שמח נופלים והופך חולים ומתיר אסורים. מקיים את לשני עבר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומדור מלך. מלך ממיד וחיים מצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלך כבודו. קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלך על הארץ כבודו, למתן ברוך ימיהו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, שבחך אלוהינו, מבינו אמוש לעולם ועד, כי הוא מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. פתח בתיך אחד, ומגרסו אחד בארץ, תפארת גדולה. ועתיד ישועה, יום מנוחה, וקדושה עמך נתת. אברהם יגל, יצחק ירנן, יעקב ובניו ינוחו בו. מנוחת אהבה ונדבה, מנוחת אמת ואמונה, מנוחת שלום ושלווה והשקט והבטח, מנוחה שלמה שאתה רוצה בה. יכירו בניך וידעו מאיתך היא מנוחתם, ועל מנוחתם יקדישו את שמך. אלוהינו אלוהי אבותינו, עצב מנוחתנו, שנו במצוותיך. ותן חלקנו בתורתך, ושבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו עלינו באהבה ורצון, שבת קודשך, וינוחו בה ישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. רצה אדוני אלוהינו במחס ותפילתם, והשיב את העבודה לדבר ביתך, ותפילתם בבת תקבל ברצון, ותהי רצון, תמיד עבודה ישראל עמך, ותחזינה עינינו, בשובך לציון ברחמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, המחזיר שכינתו לציון, מודים אנחנו לך. הטוב כי לך לרחמך, והרחם כי לטעם חסדיך, מעולם קיווינו לך. ועל כל העם יתברך וידרם שמך מלכנו, תמיד לעולם ועד. וכל העם יודוך סלע, ויהללו את שמך באמת. האל שותנו בעזרתנו סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, אתה שמך, ולכן להודות. שלום רב ישראל עמך, ועל כל יושבי תבל תשים לעולם, כי אתה הוא מלך, אדון לכל השלום, וטוב בעיניך. לברך דמך ישראל בכל עת וכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני, המברך דמו ישראל בשלום. צדקתך צדק לעולם, ותורתך אמת, ויתקתך אלוהים, עד מום אשר עשית גדולות, אלוהים מי כמוך, צדקתך בהראל, משפטך תהום רבה, אדם ובהמה תושיע אדוני. יתגדע ויגדע שברבה, בעמד יברך יותר הליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון וחייכו בישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב עמו, אמן. ישמי רבה מברך לעולם ולמי מיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתמר ויתנצל ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שבית הקודשה, והוא לאל אמן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבתה ונחמתה דמן בעלמה ועמו, אמן. תתגבר צלותו ברכון לכל ישראל, קדם לרשמיה ועמו, אמן. יהי שלום רב מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועמו, אמן. עושה שלום עמם, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועמו, אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
בעלמא דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ועמו,
Amen. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי
עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא ועמו, אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועמו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועמו, אמן.
Amen. Yasher Koach to Alan and to Eli for reading Torah in memory of his mom. I just wanted to share very briefly before we all get some nash for Studash Lishit that it was very sweet that everyone who came up today to do a El Male was for your mom. There was something very powerful about it being the same parental figure for all three of you, and made me think a lot about bringing Ariella back into our community, who just lost her mom a few weeks ago, and whose mom was a big part of course, her life and her kids' lives, and really the entire Ramah community, my family personally, and just a tremendous, tremendous loss, and an honor to have you back in our community so that we can support you, but a loss that will definitely reach deep into our hearts for many years to come. So on that note, please get some nash for Sudash Lishit, and we'll come back together to learn in just a few moments. We're having some technical difficulties. Oh, Hector's figuring it out. Okay, great. We'll come back together in like, I don't know, 7-ish minutes. We're gonna move the tables around so there's more room for people to sit a little bit more spread out, so don't be surprised if your seat gets changed. Oh, thanks, Hector. It's all back.
What was the name of your show? What was the name of your show? California Gold.
All right, everyone, we are going to get started because, like last week, I'm going to say that we're going to stop at 8:15, and I would like to actually stop at 8:15 as opposed to keep it going longer. So this week, in 2 weeks, is Shavuot. I'm going to start. In 2 weeks is Shavuot, and our plenary session for Shavuot is Sanctification of Time. So I'm teaching this week, and Cantor Chorney is teaching next week, and we thought that we would do the other two Sanctification of blanks in preparation for Sanctification of Time. So today is Sanctification of the Body, and next week you'll be learning Sanctification of Space with Cantor Chorney. This particular curriculum today has 5 sources. We don't have time for 5 sources, so I picked the 3 that I wanted to really focus in on, but you're going to get the packet with all 5. So if you'd like to go over them, you're more than welcome to. But in our session today, we're just going to focus on 3. Before I pass out the sheet, I'm just interested in knowing from you what you think we might discuss in a class called Sanctification of the Body. Mikvah, okay, great. No smoking, okay. Procreation. Tattoos. Anything else?
Death.
Death, great. The traditional response to bodily functions. Wonderful. So one of those many things is correct. I also thought that it was going to be mikvah and procreation and maybe tattoos. I didn't go as far as tattoos, but I thought maybe it was going to be something having to do with, body as a holy vessel. That's not what Hartman decided was important to talk about when talking about sanctification of the body. And I was very surprised. I picked the topic before I looked at the sources, which is sometimes a fun thing to do as a teacher. And I'm glad that I did, because I think had I looked at the sources, I might not have picked the topic. But the interesting piece that they pick up on is really just this idea, and I think it ends up playing into mikvah, right? We're gonna see areas in which mikvah could come up. But really, what does it mean to be living in our bodies as holy beings? So what does it mean to have this vessel that we call a body that houses for us all of the things that allow us to live and enjoy life? And to do that in a sense of holiness, to do that with kedusha, to do that in a way in which we can be partners with the divine and not just walk around the world as human beings, right? As part of the animal kingdom. So I'm going to pass out this packet here of sources. And for those of you who are on Zoom or at home, first of all, I'm wearing a vest because it's freezing. And second of all, because you're all watching me, you're on, well, yeah, exactly, sanctification of my body. And also, we're going to be looking at sources from the website. So if you were able to get the sources off the website or the Shabbat Bulletin, that's where we are looking. I'll tell you what they are. I'm not going to read them all in the original. But we'll be reading through all of them in some language for you to understand. So first we're going to look at Leviticus Rabbah, which is Midrash on Leviticus primarily. This particular piece is actually from Parshat Behar. So Alan and I were just talking a second ago about how sometimes the Hartman curriculum that we choose isn't actually in conjunction with the Parsha that we're studying. And it's not Bechukotai, but it's Behar. So it's just 1 week away, just what we read this morning. And this is what the source says. So if you're looking at the sheet, this is source 1. And just so you know, we're going to be looking at sources 1, 2, and 5. So if at any point you get bored and you want to look at other sources, we're not going to discuss 3 and 4. Don't ask me questions about 3 and 4 because I'll say that's not on topic. But we're gonna really study 1, 2, and 5. So if you want to look at 3 and 4, feel free. Okay. So when Hillel the elder was departing from his students, interesting that it says here, Shehaya niftar mitalmidav. Now, niftar very often means death. Doesn't just mean is leaving the room. Though the way that the story is going to continue, it seems to mean that he's just leaving his students, like he's going away from them. So another sermon for another time, but interesting that that's the word that's used in this midrash. Imam. So he would go out and then they would walk with him. Amru lo talmidav. The students would say to him, Rabbi, lehechan ata holech. Where are you going? Amar lahem la'asot mitzvah. He said, I'm going to do a mitzvah. Amru lo v'chi ma mitzvah zo. And they would say to him, what's this mitzvah that you're going to do? Hello, Rabbi Shapiro. It's lovely to see you. Amar lahem lirchotz beveit hamerachetz. He said back to them to go and to wash in the bathhouse. Okay, so far what we know from this midrash is that the mitzvah that Hillel believes he is doing when he departs from his students, again, interestingly, if you wanted to make this into a drash on Tahara, you could somehow connect actually going to your death and being washed, but again, we're not going to discuss that right this second. But what Hillel is saying is when I leave my students, I'm going to a bathhouse to wash. Sorry, I just had to find my place again. Amrulo v'chi zo mitzvah, and they said to him, is this really a mitzvah? Amar lahem, hen ma'im iconin, so like iconography, shomlachim shema'amidim oto bevete tartiot vete karkasiot. So what he's saying here, I'm going to read this part in English because the Hebrew isn't even really Hebrew. It says, just like regarding the statues, literally icons of kings that are set up in the theaters and the circuses, the one who is appointed over them bathes them and scrubs them. And they give him sustenance, and furthermore, he attains statues with the leaders of the kingdom. Status, thank you. I wondered why that sounded weird. He attains status with the leaders of the kingdom. I, who was created in the divine image and form, as it is written in Bereshit, for in the image of God, God made human beings. Okay, so what is Hillel equating this mitzvah to? This is not a trick question. Housekeeping, right? Of what? Statues, imagery, right, exactly. Things that we don't believe in taking care of in the same kind of way. Now, if obviously if you're going to an art museum, then taking care of a statue is important to do. But when it comes to seeing a statue or some type of human form treated in such a way that then we should treat our own bodies, that doesn't seem to be a very Jewish idea. Right? Yeah, Charlie. Yeah. Hmm. Right. So, right, exactly. That's what we are getting at here is actual statues of probably godly figures or kings that were seen as icons to have some kind of association with, like we would have the association with God, who we don't turn into any kind of form of statue. So what is this? How is this text helping us to understand the sanctification of our own bodies? What is this text telling us? Yeah. Great. If you're taking care of idols or statues elsewhere because you want them to look good, well, then you should also make sure that you take care of yourself. Great. What else is this saying? Right, BK? Yep. Yeah. 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 Right, right. Right. It's interesting what Rabbi PK just said is that it's interesting that this is considered a mitzvah because it seems like what Hillel basically says is here's a story why this is important to me, but were the students satisfied by that answer? Because what I'm sure Rabbi BK can imagine and so can I is a bunch of students say, okay, so is it a mitzvah? Like, nice story, but is this a mitzvah? You didn't answer our question necessarily. Maybe they thought that was the answer to their question. But yes, many people, even in today's world, take care of things that are not their bodies, much more so than they should take care of their own health. We all know people who would much rather take their car in to be serviced multiple times a year than go to the dentist or go to the doctor, right? Because that is something that doesn't hurt and that you don't have to know the outcome of. You just pay to have it taken care of. So that is taking care of other things than just your body. Yeah, Alan. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Great. That's a beautiful point. That taking care of these idols, which might provide you sustenance, so too with your bodies, right? We know, especially in a modern day world, that if you show up to work and you look a certain way, you might not do as well in whatever business it is. It doesn't matter if you're an actual business person or a rabbi, right? There's a certain way in which you should look, you should smell, you should have as an outward appearance so that you can continue to have that sustenance. Yeah, Charlie, go ahead. It's Leviticus Rabbah 34:3. Yeah, that's my guess. No. I don't think they gave it to me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great point. I obviously did not look back into the Torah to see where it was connecting, but I can look more deeply. They didn't even tell me in the leader's guide, so I'm not sure what they were referencing. Great, yes, blame Hartman, sure. Okay, so let's go to the second source here, and keep these sources in mind because we're gonna combine them together at the end. So source 2. Shisha devarim na'amru b'vnei adam, shlosha kemalchei hasharet, shlosha kevehema. So what it's saying here is that there are 6 statements that are said to be the way that we are regarded as humans. In 3 ways, we are like the angels, and in 3 ways, we are like animals. Okay, so on 2 very different sides of the spectrum, humans take bits and pieces from both sides, bits from the animals and bits from the angels. Yesh lahem da'at, we have wisdom, knowledge we can learn, kemalchei hasharet, just like the angels. Umehalchim bekoma zakufa, and we walk up straight, just like the angels, kemalchei hasharet. Umesaprim belashon hakodesh, kemalchei hasharet, and we also speak with a holy tongue, just like the angels. Shlosha kevehema, ochlin veshotin, we eat and we drink, just like animals. Ufrin urvin, and we procreate just like animals. Umotziin re'eh kevehema, which basically means we poop like animals. So our body functions just like animals function. Okay, so there are 6 ways in which we are considered 3 like the angels and 3 like animals. So what is this Talmudic piece telling us as humans in terms of how we care for our bodies? If there are 3 ways that we're like the angels and 3 ways that we're like animals, what does that mean for us as human beings? Yeah, Rabbi K. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Great. So if we have these categories of being like the angels, and we also have these categories of being like animals, how do we elevate, how do we sanctify those that are, Rabbi K didn't say this, but are the mundane, are the animalistic aspects of ourselves, to make them closer to those angelic, those divine aspects of ourselves? Joel?
I connect this to the first one that says we're fashioned by God, but Tselem Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nothing wrong with eating or procreating
Great.
or pooping.
Great.
All of these things are fine.
Great.
We do it in the image of God, so that we are a perfect creation, and there's nothing wrong or to be embarrassed about of our animalistic type behaviors. I don't see it as a put down versus the first part about angels is a good thing. I think
Yeah.
it's all good.
Great. So what Joel just said is that everything is seen as good, right? And that we need to recognize that those things that are animalistic in our behavior need not be embarrassing to us. It is wonderful that we get to eat and drink. It is wonderful that we get to procreate. And the last text that we're going to look at is Asher Yatzar. It is also divine that our body works so that the things that should not stay within our body come out of our bodies. Right? And yes, potty humor has become something that has become funny, and because we are human beings, we've become embarrassed by certain bodily functions. But if we think about it for just 1 second, the way in which our body gets rid of toxins that we can't have within our body, that is extremely miraculous. Right? I'm not a doctor, so I know there's also science behind it. But when we think about the fact that we are able to get rid of something that could harm us, that is a miracle. So those animalistic comparisons, I guess you could say, even though, as Joel said, they're kind of being juxtaposed as negative to something that might be seen as positive, In fact, they're all very positive, and one is and one side, right? The animalistic behaviors are things that we should uplift, as our BK was saying, to get closer to that other side of the spectrum. Ellen. Great. Beautiful. Yeah. True, true. Yes, 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 yeah. Right. So just like we talked about last week, now when we think about when we say a blessing before we eat or drink something or after we go to the bathroom, what we're doing is we're taking these human behaviors, which are also animalistic, and we are making them sanctified. We are making them holy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. So when we eat something, we're taking in sustenance that's for our health, for our body. Even if it's not great for us, it still gives us some kind of nutrient. And when we're in the presence of ministering angels or any kind of divine being, we are also being satiated by a spiritual aspect of ourselves. I love that comparison. Beautiful. Other thoughts on this text? Yeah, Tom. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Great. And it's also telling us that we can be one or the other, or we can be both at the same time, right? We could be angelic in our behavior and in our human lives. And also, we could just be animalistic in our human behavior and lives. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and interesting that the first thing that is said in that list of 3 like an angel is that we can think, right? Which is often we think of that as a positive, but as you're saying, there could be elements of overthinking that have led us to also destroy aspects of our nature, our lives, our world, because we aren't just acting upon urges, but rather we are, again, it's seen as positive in most cases, but we are learning, we are researching, we are digging deeper, which could be creating things like cars that create pollution that then hurt our environment, right? So it is cyclical in the way that we are the way that we are combining these two things. I want to go to the last source very quickly. First of all, if it was not Shabbat, I would play for you. Rabbi Josh Warshawski wrote a beautiful tune for Asher Yatzar very recently. It's called Wonder. And if you look it up on, I think anything, but like iTunes or YouTube or whatever after Shabbat, it's really very, very, very beautiful. And I joked with him that maybe it'll actually get people to say it after they go to the bathroom, because yeah. Is the what? Oh, I got it. That there's something really important about this prayer, but because we don't teach it, because quite frankly, because we're afraid the kids are gonna laugh when we teach them about poop, right? That's why we don't teach it. But if we were to teach this prayer, possibly more people would say it, and it is actually extremely important. I mean, just like saying Modeh Ani in the morning to say that you're grateful for waking up and having your soul be returned to you, this blessing for your body just doing what your body's supposed to do is extremely important, and the minority of Jews say this blessing. So listen to the tune. I tried to practice it before Shabbat to be able to sing it for you, but I won't do it justice. So I'm gonna have you listen to it later. And if you forget who wrote it or forget what I said, just email me and I'll send it to you. So here's the blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam bechokma uvara vo nekavim chalulim chalulim. Blessed are you, God, Master of the universe, who formed the human being in your wisdom and created inside of them many orifices and cavities. Galui veyadua lifnei chisech vodecha, she'im yipateach echad mehem, o yisatem echad mehem, I efshar lehitkayem vela'amod lefanecha. It is obvious and it is known before your seat of honor that if one that should remain closed, meaning the openings of our bodies that are supposed to open, if it should remain closed, that if one should remain closed, opened, or one that should remain open was closed, we would not be able to arise and stand before you for even one moment. Right? Think of a time, I don't want to know a story, but think of a time that there was just something going on in your body and you didn't feel well enough to stand or to sit or to just live out in the world. This blessing is saying, thank you, God, for allowing my body to function in the way that it is supposed to function, that it is naturally supposed to function so that I could feel well to then do all these other things that I'm supposed to do, like bless you and do mitzvot in the world and be part of community, et cetera, et cetera. Because if those things didn't open and my body didn't function correctly, I wouldn't be able to do that. Baruch atah Hashem rofea kol basar umafli la'asot. Blessed are you, God, who heals all flesh, umafli la'asot, and acts wondrously. This is why Josh named the tune Wonder, because there is something very miraculous about the fact that our bodies do what they're supposed to do without us telling them to. And I think this goes back to the first two sources that we talked about, because there must then be some need for us as humans to make our bodies holy, to make sure that we recognize our bodies as vessels of holiness. Because again, if we forget that our bodies are holy vessels, then we're not grateful for the fact that they do what they need to do. And then we're missing out on the whole point of having bodies. I wanted to also bring this up because there's so much in the world right now talking about other people's bodies. And I wanted to just pointedly say that when we discuss the sanctity of our body, interestingly, all of our rabbis do not in this moment, there are other moments, but in these moments of talking about sanctity of body, they don't dare talk about your body, they talk about their body. They talk about our bodies and the way that they function. So I thought that it was interesting to see these different sources and the way in which even our rabbis knew that each and every individual body, both the actual body itself, but also the human, needs to take their own responsibility over their own body. The first source that we saw had nothing to do with you telling your friend that they should take a shower more often, right? It had to do with if you know that you should be taking care, that you are taking care of those idols, then you too should be taking care of your body. And in the second source, we were equated to divine beings like angels because we're able to stand up and we're able to think for ourselves and we're able to recognize those things in the world that we are grateful for. So that is not where this Hartman class went, that those sources are not in this Hartman class, but I just wanted to point it out because it would have been a missed opportunity to connect to the things happening in our world right now that are scary for many in terms of thinking about what it means to recognize our bodies as holy vessels. So I hope that what you'll take away from this, and again, this will be part of a trio. So next week will be sanctity of space, and then Shavuot will be sanctity of time. I hope that what you'll take away from this trio is that very mundane things like space and like time and like our bodies that we often take for granted need to also be uplifted to a place of holiness, need to also be recognized and considered and really taken a moment every time you go to the bathroom to be grateful for the fact that we have these vessels that work in miraculous and beautiful ways, and that we need to be able to see them as made in the image of God, that we need to be able to see them as partners in creation, as opposed to taken for granted just to allow us to have as much fun and as much enjoyment on this earth as we can. Yeah. Yeah. You can definitely look it up. Yeah, at home. It's on YouTube or on iTunes or something like that. Yeah. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. We're going to go into Mariv. Does anybody want to lead Mariv? Okay. We're gonna. Sorry. I know. I wasn't done talking. We are going to go into Mariv in just a second. We're gonna do Kadisha Rabbanan first, and then we will go into Birkat, and then Mariv will follow right after. So Kadisha Rabbanan can be found, I believe, on page 1. Page 111. For those at home, I am sorry that I don't know what page it'll be on, but it's during Psuke, right before Baruch She'amar. Well, not right before, but a little bit before Baruch She'amar. Yit gadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabba be'alma divrach kirute ve'amlich malchute bechayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Israel ba'agala u'vizman kari ve'imru amen yehi shemei rabba mevarach leolam lomei almaya Yit barach ve'yish tabach ve'yit pa'ar ve'yit romam ve'yit naseh ve'yit hadar ve'yit ale ve'yit halal shemei dekudesha b'rechu le'ela min kol birchata ve'shirata tush bechata ve'nechemata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidehon ve'al kol Talmidehon ve'al kol man de'askin be'oraita di ve'atra hadein ve'di ve'chol atar ve'atar yehi lehon ulechon shlama rabba china ve'chista ve'rachamin ve'chayin arichin u'mezona revicha ufor kana min kodam avuhon divishamaya ve'imru amen Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya ve'chayim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen Oseh shalom bimramav hu berachamav ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. We'll do a quick birkat. We'll do it azimun, and then we'll do the rest silently, and then we'll go straight into Mariv. Shir hamalo peshuv Adonai et shivat Zion ayinu kechomim az yemales chok pinu uleshonenu rina az yomru v'agoyim hitil Adonai lasoti meilem hitil Adonai lasoti manu ayinu semechim Shuv Adonai et shevitenu kafikim b'negev hazorim bedima perina hikzoru haloch yelechu v'cho nosem meshech hazara boyavo verina nose alumotav. Someone want to do a Zimun? Yehi Shemana Barachmet Ave Adolam. Baruch Eloheinu Shachanu Mishalav Tiva Ochayinu.
Okay. Wasn't sure. Okay. Sorry, I stepped on your toes earlier. Sorry, I stepped my bad. You stepped on your toes earlier. Oh, okay. 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 And Love Shelling will be on page 264.
Please rise.
Hurachu mechaper b'mol yashiv v'hir bal yashiv apol v'ya'ir kol chamato Adonai Hashem melchianinu v'yom koreinu Baruchu et Adonai hamivorach Baruch Adonai hamivorach l'olam va'ed Baruch Adonai Mavir maybe Laila Mavir minim vein Laila Adonai Tzvaot Shemo L'chai v'kayam taminu l'olam va'ed Baruch Adonai hamari v'aravim V'alam b'yisrael mechav tatur V'avatecha tasir mimenu le'amim Baruch Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohechem emet. Malchuto Berathon Kibilu, Alehem Moshe Miriam Bnei Israel, Chanu Shira B'Sim Charabav, Yameru Chilam, Michamo Chabaylim Adonai, Mikamo Chanadar Kodesh, Ratilo Tosefel, Malchuta Charova, Nechamot Bukiayam Lifnei Moshe, Zeili Nuv Yameru, Adonai Lo Chilam Vaev, Benemar Kifada Adonai, Yaakov, Ugalo Miad Chazak Mimenu, Baruch Atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Ushmor Tzeitzenu Voinu Chaimul Shalom Yatavet Elam Baruch Atah Adonai Shemer Amo Yisrael La'ad 268 Baruch Adonai Amen V'Amen Baruch Adonai. Ki HaMalchut Shel Chai L'Me'ad Timoch B'Chavod Kin Lanu Melech El Atah Baruch Atah Adonai HaMelech B'Fodo Tamid Imach Alinu L'Am Vayed V'Al Kol Ma'asav Chazikash 269 Yikadal V'Kadash Shemech Rabbah Yalemadi V'Raku Teh V'Yamich Malchuteh B'Chayechon V'Yamechon V'Chay D'Chol B'Yisrael Bagalav Yizman Kari V'Imru Amen Yehesh Shemech Rabbah Mabarach Maya Barach Vishabach V'Par V'Ramin Aseh V'Dar V'Dal V'Dal Shemech Kudsha Berichu Leila Min Kol B'Chatav V'Shirat Tajish B'Chatav Nechamata Damiram B'Yalema V'Imru Amen. Those in here on Zoom 270 through 278. يكرا بكرا شمح ربا بيعلمادي براكيوته في يوميخ مكوته بخيخون في يوميخون بخير خل بإسرائيل فقلاوي زمان كاري فيمرو آمين يهي شمح ربا مبراخ للام الملمايا يبارخ في شباك في بار في ترام بيتنا سي في تدار في تلي في تلال شمح تود شابري خو ليلا من كل برخاتا بشراتا برخاتا بنخماتا دم بيعلما فيمرو آمين Vino Amarna Elenu, Alina Masi Adina Kuna, Elenu Masi Adina Kunanehu, Shiv Situ Yum Social Shailan. Crying Benehu Anochi with Rachalati Bahabedehu, or Chamiamasi Aspihu very Bishuati, or Yami Maspihu very Bishuati.
Petty Shalem, page 280. We don't need to.
You could all be Kashmeh Rabba. Belamadi, the Rakute, family Makute. Bachayachon Vimachon Chayduchop Israel. Bagavis Man Kari Vimru. Amen. Yehe Shemeh Rabba Mibarach. Lalam Lalam Elemaya Yid Barach. Bishabach. Bifar Vitram Vina Savit Hadar Vital Vital. Shemeh Tekudsha. Leila Mikol Brechata Bishrata Tishbechata Venechamata Miram Belema Vimru. Amen. Tikabalso to vote to Hon the Cholisro Kodama Wondi Vishmaya Vimru. Amen. Yeshalam Araba Mishmaya Chaim Alin Vakolisro Vimru. Amen. O Seshalom Mirama Via Seshalom Alin Vakolisro Vimru. Amen. And the Shabeach Ladon Hakol La Tate Gedula Liosir Bereshit Shelo Asanu Gui Haratzot Velo Samanu Kamish Pechot Adama Shelo Sam Chalkenu Kahem Vigor Alenu Kechel Hamonam Vanachnu Korim Umitsachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamelachim Akadosh Baruch Hu Shenu Shemayim V'Zidar Tor Techarnei Muchalam Vaed Benemar Vaya Adonai Lamelech Al Kol Haaretz Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad Ushemo Echad Kadishatum 282 Eat Gadal Veit Kadash Shemech Rabbah Be'alemad Iverach Kirutech Ve'amlich Malchutech Bechayechon Uvyomechon Ubchaye Dechol Beit Israel Ba'agala Ubizman Kari Vimru Amen Yehi Shemech Rabba Mevarach Alam Lalamel Lamaya Eat Barach Vish Tabach Vipa'ar Vitromam Vit Nase Vit Hadar Vit Ale Vit Halal Shemech Tudsha Berichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alema v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen. Yasher koach to Joey for leading us in a beautiful Mariv. We are going to now do Havdalah, and we've been joined with a lovely HMI group. Sorry, people don't know what that means. Honeymoon Israel group. Fun fact, because there are people on Zoom. Have you Rabbi Matt Shapiro, and this honeymoon Israel group, funny fact that I was supposed to go on a trip that then didn't, Rabbi Shapiro was supposed to go on a trip that then I went on because Rabbi Shapiro couldn't go on. Then it was canceled for me. Then I couldn't go on the rescheduled trip. And then Rabbi Shapiro went on the trip. So really, this is our honeymoon Israel group. And I didn't get to go on it, but Rabbi Shapiro did. So we're going to turn the lights off and we will do Havdalah. Rabbi Shapiro and I will do it together. Rabbi Shapiro is really the singer in the relationship, so. Oh, is that not how that worked? Ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na ya na 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 ya na 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 ya Eftach velo efchad Ki ozi vezimarat ya Adonai vayehi li lishua Ushavtem mayim besason Mimanei ha-Yeshua L'Adonai ha-Yeshua Alamcha virchatecha sela Adonai tzevaot Imanu Miskav lanu Elohei Yaakov sela Adonai tzevaot Ashrei Adam moteach bach Adonai Hoshia Hamelech ya'aneinu v'yom koreinu la'yehudim hayta ora v'simcha v'sason v'ikar ken tiyeh lanu kos yeshuotesa uv'shem Adonai ekra Yainanai, yananai, nai, nai. Yainanai, yananai, nai, nai. Yainai, nananai, nai, nai. Yainai, yananai, nai, nai. Yainai, yananai, nai, nai. Yainai, yananai. Yainai, yananai, nai, nai. Yainai, nananai, nai, nai. Yainai, nananai. It's your trip. Yainai, yananai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafim. Amen. Yainai, na 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 na. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim. Amen. Yainai na 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 na. Yainai na 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 na. Yainai na na na. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh. Amen. Yainai na 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 na. Yainai na 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 na. Yainai na 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 na. Yainai na na na. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechol Moshe. Ben Israel le'ami, ben yom hashvi, le'sheshet yamei hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavdil ben kodesh lecho yanai. Shavuot Tov, Shavuot Tov, Shavuot Tov, Shavuot Tov, Shavuot Tov, Shavuot Tov, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, thank you. Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimera V'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David. We're going to count the Omer, which can be found on page 63. So in between Passover and Shavuot, we count every day in between. We are on the day after 35. So if you'd like to do that math, just 35 plus 1. We're on page 63, which interestingly is the inverse of the number that we're going to be saying. Yeah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom. Shisha u'shloshim yom shehem chamisha shavuot ve'yom echad la'omer. Today is the 36 days, 5 weeks, and 1 day of the Omer. Shavua Tov, everyone. This is very far in advance, but just so that you know, on June 25th, we are going to be having this service at B'nai David. We are going to be doing a program with B'nai David, so we're going to be davening separately, but then doing a program together. So there will be no service or Sudah Shlishit or anything at Temple Beth Am that week, only at B'nai David. We're just going to keep reminding you until it happens. June 25th. It's in a long time. Shavuot Tov, see you all soon. Welcome. Have fun with Rabbi Shapiro. He's not fun, so hopefully you can help him figure out how to do that. See you all later. You're so welcome. You're welcome.